UFC 298 is upon us. It is only one day away, and I think we got some incredibly stacked fights on this card. Even though I don't think it is better than UFC 299 and UFC 300, I think that there's a lot of entertaining prospects on this card, and we're going to get a lot of interesting fights. I'm very excited to give you guys my full card predictions and breakdowns for this fight card. It's going to be a great one, and I'm absolutely hyped for it. So I'm not going to leave you guys waiting any longer. Without further ado, let's get into the predictions. The first fight on the card, we got Andrea Lee versus Miranda Maverick. And I'm going to be real with you guys right now. Andrea Lee straight up sucks. And I think that she should have retired before this fight. She's on a 3-fight losing streak. She can't finish fighters when she wins. She doesn't really have any interesting fights. I honestly couldn't even tell her what her strengths are, if I'm going to be honest with you here. She's just not a good fighter. She's 35 years old, which is, it's pretty old for MMA. I'm not going to lie to you. And Miranda Maverick has a way better record, has had fought way better opponents, and is like 9 years younger than Andrea Lee. So this is an absolute no-brainer for me. I think Miranda Maverick gets it done by decision. I think it's going to be a slow, boring fight. It's going to have a lot of ground game, but not like interesting ground game, like sad, slow, control time type of ground game, like position over submission, And that's kind of what Miranda Maverick's great at. I think she's going to absolutely dominate Andrea Lee everywhere. She's going to take her down early, and she's just kind of going to dominate her on the ground for 15 minutes. There's not much else I can really say about it. I think Miranda Maverick gets this one done, and we're going to move on to the next fight we got here. We got Val frickin' Woodburn taking on the debuter, Obon Elliott. I've actually never seen Obon Elliott fight. I did a lot of research about him. I read a lot about him before this video, but I've actually never seen him fight, and I did not see his fight on the Contender Series. But I have noticed that he was very good in Cage Warriors, and he's pretty balanced everywhere. But I don't think he's got anything like his ground game or his submission game or his power or his striking ability or his quickness. I don't think he has anything specifically that sets him apart from the rest. All right, and I think the same thing stands with Val Woodburn. Val Woodburn, he is a pretty good fighter, man. I love him. He's a super likable guy. His last fight, he just stood absolutely no chance against Bo Nickel. Let's be real here. So I do think that this fight's going to be very close. I think it's going to be an all-out war, and I think these guys are going to fight like their life's on the line, man. I think this fight's going to be great. I do think it's going to go to a decision, and I am taking Val Woodburn in this fight, even though he's a pretty heavy underdog at plus 250, and Obon Elliott is a pretty big favorite at minus 310. I'm still taking Val Woodburn here by decision, just because I do think Obon Elliott just does not have enough experience in the UFC, I guess. He is a debuter, and I guess Val Woodburn doesn't really have that much experience either. I just really love Val Woodburn, so I'm going to take him over Obon Elliott. I do think that this fight's going to be very close, though. Maybe like a split decision or something like that, but I do think the fight's going to stay on the feet. I think these guys are going to duke it out in the pocket, and I think that's going to be a lot of what we're going to see in this fight. Third fight on this card, and one of the last fights on the early prelims, we got Josh Quinlan taking on Danny Barlow. This fight's going to be absolutely great. I am so hyped for this fight, man. Josh Quinlan, he carries some crazy power in those hands. He debuted with an awesome one-punch knockout, but he did kind of get wrecked in his second fight. Danny Barlow, though, he's 7-0, undefeated UFC debuter, coming off of a flashy first-round knockout in Dana White's Contender Series. I absolutely love to watch this guy fight, and watching him in the Contender Series was super fun. I think it's going to be a super fun and entertaining fight between these two, but I am taking Danny Barlow by a first or second round knockout. I do think Josh Quinlan's going to give him a run for his money in the beginning, but I just don't think he's going to stay hanging with Danny Barlow, man. I think Danny Barlow's going to knock him out. And let's get on to the next fight and the last fight on the early prelims. The fourth fight on this card and the last fight on the early prelims is going to be Zhang Mingy Yang, the winner of Road to FC, and Brenson Rivero, a UFC debuter. These guys, oh man, these guys are entertaining to watch. I mean, these two are some big, powerful strikers. Brenson Rivero is a straight-up killer-be-killed type of guy. He will either knock you out or you're going to finish him. It's always going to be one or the other. He has 15 wins, and every single win is by finish. He's an absolute dog. He came in on the Contender Series with a flashy knockout. And Zhang Mingyang, I haven't really heard of him until the road to FC, but he was very impressive on that. And I think he's an absolutely great fighter. I really be bouncing back and forth on who I want to take in this fight, and I do think it's going to be very close. But, I think I'm going to take Brenson Ribeiro by third round TKO, and that's going to be my final pick. But, dude, I could see this fight going either way. I can't argue with either pick here, but I'm going to take Brenson Ribeiro by TKO because he is just an absolute monster, an absolute tank. Watching him fight is just crazy. This fight's about to be so entertaining, so fun, and I'm so The first fight on the prelims, we got Rinya Nakamura taking on Carlos Vera, and I don't even know who put these fights together, man, because Rinya Nakamura is going to absolutely smash Carlos Vera. I love Carlos Vera. He was on the TUF Season 31. Unfortunately, he was put on Conor McGregor's team. Conor McGregor just didn't really care about his team at all. They also, prospects versus vets, I mean, come on now. That's one of the most unfair lineups I've ever heard of. But Carlos Vera, he was a not talented fighter in a very untalented season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I think he's going to get absolutely wrecked by Rinya Nakamura. Rinya Nakamura is an absolute dog. He's a super entertaining fighter to watch, and he's just such an awesome guy. There's just something about him. There's just something about him that makes me like him a lot, and I think that he's going to absolutely smash Carlos Vera. I do love Carlos Vera, but you stand no chance in this fight, man. I'm going to take Rinya Nakamura by a first-round submission, and there's really not much else to be said, man. This is going to be total domination from the next fight up. We got one that I am very excited for. It's Junior Tafa, not Justin Tafa, as his brother Junior Tafa stepped in on like 24 hours notice, taking on Derek Lewis's son, or as his actual name is, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And I think this fight's going to be great, dude. I think Derek Lewis's son, he carries some decent power, right? When he fought Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's really no slouch, man, he just pieced his leg from the get-go. I think he does have a lot of potential to be a great fighter, but, I mean, Derek Lewis made him look like a small child out there as he got frickin' flying kneed, KO'd by Derek Lewis in like 30 seconds. So I don't know how confident I am in taking him in any fight ever again. He's also like 40 years old, so that does not help his case either. And the other fighter is Junior Tafa, not Justin Tafa, as Justin Tafa pulled out on 24 hours notice due to an injury. Junior Tafa is going to step in for him, and I think Junior Tafa is going to knock him out, baby. Tafa gang, all the way. Man, I love Junior Tafa. I love Justin Tafa. I absolutely root for them all the time. They're just so sick, man. And I think Junior Tafa is going to piece him up and knock him out in the first or second round. If this fight goes past the second round, though, I could see a world where Marcos Rogerio de Lima can pull through and knock out Junior Tafa, because Junior Tafa is very young with not very much experience. So I do definitely see a world where Marcos Rogerio de Lima, can survive the wave of the Tafa man himself. And there's a very good chance that if that happens, Junior Tafa is going to gas out. And I think that's going to be Marcos Rogerio de Lima's time to step in and maybe get a finish there in late in the third round. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to take Junior Tafa by TKO. Now we got the featured prelim here. We got Amanda Lemos, former title challenger, taking on Mackenzie Dern, who is an absolute jiu-jitsu practitioner, guys. I'm telling you, she is extremely talented on the ground, man. But I thought she had some decent hands on the feet, but, I mean, she clearly did not, dude. Jessica Andrade pieced her up in her last fight. She's coming off of a knockout loss. Amanda Lemos, she's coming off fighting Zhang Weili for the title. So what do you think's going to happen, right? So I think this fight's going to be great. I think if Mackenzie Dern can get her on the ground, I bet she could probably get a finish on Amanda Lemos. But if she decides to do what she did against Jessica Andrade and just stand there and straight up swing with her, I think she might have to pay the price for that one. But if she takes this fight to the ground, I think she's going to submit Amanda Lemos or just straight up dominate her easily. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Amanda Lemos is going to knock out Mackenzie Dern in the second round. I think Amanda Lemos has some crazy hands on the feet. Her power is unmatched in that UFC strawweight division. This fight actually might be going on at flyweight. I'm not totally sure. But, dude, Amanda Lemos has some power in those hands, and I think she is going to knock out Mackenzie Dern in the second or maybe the Next third. Up, we got the first fight on the main card. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Roman Kopylov. And, dude, this fight I am absolutely hyped for. This is also my pick for the fight of the night and my pick for the winner to get performance of the night. And Anthony Hernandez, man, he's actually sitting at a pretty big favorite. Last time I checked, it was somewhere around like minus 220, minus 230. So, I don't even know how. I think Roman Kopylov is better everywhere. Anthony Hernandez is a great striker. He's an absolutely great striker. He's great at finding the finish. He's great at not being just like a straight up headhunter like a lot of these, novice newbie middleweights can be. But dude, he is absolutely no match for Roman Kopylov. I think Roman Kopylov is an absolute dog. I think you could even see him fighting for the title here in about 2 to 3 years per se. I mean, I think he's absolutely great. I think he's going to knock out Anthony Hernandez in the second or third round. And I think he's just going to dominate him. Straight up piece him up and pick him apart, man. I love Roman Kopylov. If he's sitting as the underdog when you see this video, you got to absolutely hammer that money line. Because I would put the house on Roman Kopylov if I had the chance, dude. I think he knocks him out in the second or third round. Fourth fight left on this UFC card? We got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Henry Cejudo, Triple C, baby. I think this fight's going to be good. I think it's going to definitely go to a decision. It's hard for me to see a way where either of these fighters can find a finish on each other. But I do think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be an all-out war. Kind of. I think the fight's going to be pretty close. But it's just hard for me to pick Henry Cejudo right now. Because if you see him in the interviews and on the embedded episodes, he talks about how his career is done if he loses this fight. And a lot of people see that as like, yeah, this fighter's all hyped up. If they lose, they're going to retire, so that means they're destined to not lose. But in my opinion, I think that the fire is gone in Henry Cejudo, and I just don't think he really has it anymore. I think Merab Dvalishvili is going to probably shoot 80 to 90 to 100 takedowns on Henry Cejudo, and he's going to land like 4 of them, and that's going to be all he actually needs, because he's going to dominate Henry Cejudo, and he's going to cruise to a 30-27 decision, and Henry Cejudo is going to walk off on his beach house somewhere in Hawaii and retire. All right. And yeah, there's not much else I can really say about it. I do really like Merab Dvalishvili. He's very funny. I always root for him. Triple C, he's very not funny, very cringe. Just not my type of guy, honestly. But I do still think he's a great fighter. I'm not going to discredit him there. But I just think that the fire is gone in Henry Cejudo. And I think that Merab Dvalishvili is going to get this done by a very dominant landslide decision. Next up, we got the co-main to the co-main. We got Ian Gary taking on Jeff Neal. I'm so hyped for this fight, man. What I really hope happens is that Jeff Neal absolutely flatlines Ian Machado Gary. All right? Jeff Neal has got some heavy hands, but the only problem is I feel like he can be kind of a one-dimensional boxer on the feet at times, and I do think that's going to hurt him against a very well-rounded striker in Ian Gary. Even though Ian Gary is looking pretty soft on this vegan diet, he is kind of looking like more of a skinny, fat dad bod type of guy. He's looking more like Nate Diaz by the day on this vegan diet, but I don't think it's going to matter for him against this fight with Jeff Neal. I think he's gonna dance around him, dance around him a little bit. And I honestly think that's gonna be it. He's gonna throw some leg kicks, piece him up, do exactly what he did to Neil Magny, and just kind of like cruise for a decision. I could see Jeff Neal maybe finding that stiffening right hand to Ian Gary's chin. Let's cross our fingers for that one, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I am going to take Ian Machado Gary by a landslide decision. Finally, again, the real co-main event is up next. We got Robert Whittaker taking on Paulo the Eraser Costa. And dude, I love Robert Whittaker, man. I think he's an absolute dog, and I think he's going to come back with some fire, with some rage, right, in his heart after that fight with Dricus du Plessis. But man, Paulo Costa, he's a good fighter, and I'm about to give you guys my in-depth reason on why I'm picking Paulo Costa, because no one's picking Paulo Costa in this fight, let's be real. All right, everyone's taking Robert Whittaker. But hold on. Give me a second here. Robert Whittaker, he's very, very bad at dealing with forward pressure, all right? He's very, very bad when people, give him that forward pressure. He's like allergic to forward pressure in a way, all right? Against Yoel Romero the second time, he got dropped twice because of forward pressure. Somehow still won the fight. I literally don't know how they scored it for him there, but that's not the point. Dricus du Plessis knocked him out from forward pressure. Like I already said, Yoel Romero gave him a lot of problems with that forward pressure. The contender Israel Adesanya, in their first fight, that forward pressure, it really, really got to Robert Whittaker, and it resulted in a knockout. Loss for Robert Whittaker. Paulo Costa, he's absolutely great with that forward pressure. He gave Yoel Romero one of the best fights he's ever had. It's probably the best fight that I've ever seen, honestly. That fight was freaking awesome. And then he also knocked out Uriah Hall and Johnny Hendricks with some crazy forward pressure. Because let's be real, Paulo Costa does not have this insane power that everyone's saying that he has. But what he does have is some great forward pressure, and if he can put some shots together, I think he can definitely knock out Robert Whittaker. So my pick is going to be Robert Whittaker by a second round. Not Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa by a second round TKO. And last, but certainly not least, we got the main event that we've all been waiting for. We got Ilia Topuria taking on Alex Volkanovski, man. This fight is going to be absolutely great. I am so hyped for this fight because I'm taking Ilia Topuria straight up. Ilia Topuria by knockout. Straight up. All right? Alexander Volkanovski. He's an absolute legend. He's a great fighter. But he's coming off of a head kick knockout loss in a division up off like 3 months' notice. And he's facing a undefeated, crazy good rising contender in Ilia Topuria, who's already putting UFC champion in his Instagram bio. That dude knows he won the fight. And I know that he won the fight too. He already knows he won the fight. Alex Volkanovski, he's getting old, all right? And taking a knockout loss like that and then coming back so soon against a fighter like Ilia Topuria, he's just destined for failure, man. And I think if Alexander Volkanovski can make this a more boring fight, keep it at his own pace, keep Ilia Topuria at range, I think he could outpoint Ilia Topuria and get a win. I would be kind of shocked if Ilia Topuria wins by decision, but I just don't see that happening. I don't think this fight sees round 3, and I think Ilia Topuria is going to knock him out. And I know this is an absolutely crazy take. Jackson, why are you saying this right now? But I can just feel it, right? I can absolutely feel it. I think an Ilia Topuria knockout is coming, and you guys are all going to be shocked, and I'm going to sit here telling you guys, I told you so.